Hey there, gang. These last few videos of this unit are actually going to be some review of Algebra 1 concepts that we took a look at last year. This first video here is going to be a review of slope. So if you remember from last year, there are 4 different types of slope that you can have for lines. You can have lines that have positive slope, which are increasing lines, negative slope, which are decreasing lines. You can have zero slope, and that would be a horizontal line. Or you can have undefined slope, which would result in a vertical line. If we're asked to find the slope of a line, well, there's 2 different ways we could do that. If we're given a graph, then we would use the fact that we know slope, which we use the variable m, equals the rise divided by the run. And so let's just review how we would find rise over run for each of these graphs. On number 1, we have a line. You can see that that line has positive slope, so you know your m value will be positive here. There are 2 points identified on the line, a point A and a point B. So to find the rise, you pick one of those points, it doesn't matter which one, and you count the vertical distance in between your starting point and your ending point. So for instance, if I start with A, I need to go upwards to get to B. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4 units. There we go. To get to B. So that's a rise of positive 4 because we're moving upwards on the graph. So I would say m equals positive 4 for my numerator. And then my denominator is the run. I have to go right now to get to point B, and I go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So that's a run of positive 5. So positive 4 over positive 5 becomes a slope of 4/5. We always give slope when we're talking about graphs as reduced fractions. They can be proper or improper, or whole numbers. We don't want to give decimals or mixed numbers for these. All right, number 2, we have a line that has negative slope this time with the points P and Q. Again, you can start at either point, it doesn't matter. So if I start at P, I need to go downwards to get to Q. So that's going down 1, 2, 3 units. That would be a rise of negative 3 since we went downwards. So that's negative 3, and then the run, I'm going right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a positive 6 for the run. Negative 3 over positive 6. First of all, my slope is going to be negative. You know that from the direction the line is going right away, but you also know that a negative divided by a positive is a negative. We can reduce 3 over 6. That reduces to negative 1/2. So that's the slope. All right, for number 3, we have a vertical line. Vertical lines, you should know right away that the slope is undefined. If we wanted to try to calculate the rise over the run, well, the rise is just going to be the vertical distance between these 2 points. If I start at N, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units up. So the rise would be positive 6. But then the run, I don't have to go left or right since I went straight up, so the run is 0. Well, the reason the slope is undefined is you cannot divide by 0 in math. That's impossible, so that's why we say this has undefined slope. The opposite is true for number 4. Again, horizontal lines will always have a slope of 0. You can't do a rise for this one because J and K are on the same level horizontally. So in this case, we would say the rise is just 0. That's your numerator. The run, depending on whether you start with J or K, would be positive or negative 3. If I start with K and go left, 1, 2, 3, that's a run of negative 3. Whether you do positive or negative doesn't really matter again because your numerator is 0. Anytime your numerator is 0, your slope will be 0. So that's how we find slope again with a graph. We can also find slope if we know just 2 points on a line. So this is the way we find slope given ordered pairs. We use our slope formula. The slope formula is m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So that's the difference in the y coordinates divided by the difference in the x coordinates. So if I'm asked to find the slope of line AB, and I know that point A has coordinates at negative 2, 5, and point B has coordinates at negative 6, 1, or excuse me, 6, negative 1, then I can use this formula, and in the numerator, I would do the difference in those y coordinates. I can start with either 5 or I can start with negative 1. It doesn't matter as long as we're consistent. So if I start with negative 1, and I call that my y sub 2, then 5 would be my y sub 1, and this would be negative 1 minus 5. Then I need to start with 6 as my x sub 2, so in the denominator this would be 6 minus, and then negative 2 here is my x sub 1 value, negative 2. So really in the denominator I have negative 1 minus 5 in the numerator, and in the denominator I have 6 plus 2. So this becomes negative 6 over 8, and that reduces to negative 3/4. All right, number 6, find the slope of line GH, given G has coordinates at negative 11, negative 3, and H coordinates at negative 6, 7. So if 7 is y sub 2, then negative 3 is y sub 1. This would be 7 minus negative 3. Then if that means negative 6 is x sub 2, so we start with negative 6 in the denominator, and we subtract negative 11. The biggest issue you'll run into the formula if you're not careful is signs, so just watch out for those double negatives when they happen. So on this one, we have 7 plus 3 in the numerator. That's 10 divided by negative 6 plus 11 in the denominator, and you get a slope of 2. Number 7, find the slope of line XY. So we're going to take 2 minus negative 4 in the numerator. In the denominator, we'll do 9 minus 9. So we have 2 plus 4 divided by 9 minus 9, and we get 6 divided by 0. Again, we cannot divide by 0 in math, so that would be an example of a vertical line which has undefined slope. And then finally, for number 8, finding the slope of line RS, we would start out with negative 3 minus negative 3 in the numerator. In the denominator, we would have 0 minus negative 7. So you have negative 3 plus 3 divided by 0 plus 7. You get 0 divided by 7, and that just gives you a slope of 0, which is a horizontal line. If you had any questions over this video, make sure those are written down for the next time. Until then, have a nice day. You're all wonderful people. Take care.